But the worst one was having a seizure whilst I was driving on the M25 in the outside lane, which wasn't ideal. But I was on the way there, and I just hit the central reservation, and the car came to a stop in the middle lane.
Hello and welcome to the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life, trying to get some insight from their life experiences and their thoughts around courage. In today's episode, I'm joined by Stuart Smith, who's an entrepreneur, business owner, and he's in the design space. So can't wait for you to meet him and hear some of his experience around building courage. Hello, Stuart.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. You okay?
I'm good. Good to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Excellent. So I usually start the podcast by asking people what their name means.
Yeah.
So what does Stuart mean?
Stuart, it's Scottish. Steward, it means, which is effectively house guard.
Interesting.
So someone who looks after a house, I don't know, an Airbnb super hostess from the 19th century or something like that.
Do you look after your house well, would you say?
I try, actually. Decorating wise, not so good.
Good.
We've been moved into our new house for about 18 months and we've only done one room. So That's how much I love decorating.
Brilliant. Have you got a hidden middle name or anything like that?
Lee. Yeah, which was the same name as my uncle.
Right.
So that's probably where it came from. I'm not one of these people that puts loads of meaning into names, and
sure.
I don't think my mum and dad did either. I think they just like the name.
But
I know a lot of people do, but I'm not the sort of person who does think about it too much.
I find it really interesting because it's the thing that gets spoken over you the most in life, right? Your name.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to go, what does that mean? What is this person saying over me?
Yeah, I know you say it enough times, it kind of doesn't mean anything.
And then there's nicknames as well, you know. I don't know, are you called Stu?
Yeah, Stu. Yeah. That gets shortened. I don't mind that at all. Yeah, it's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you have a big family?
Just me and my brother, mum, dad, obviously, and then at the moment, we've got my wife and son and daughter. They're both grown up.
There you go.
So
And when you say grown up,
James is 23.
Right.
He's moved to Plymouth recently. He's got a job down there, so we're trying to get used to that and not being at home at all. And then Rebecca, she's at university in Winchester. So
nice.
Again, away most of the time. So we're empty nesters trying to get used to that at the moment.
And was that an easy transition?
I think it is. Yeah, we've always obviously gone really well. Nearly 25 years will be our anniversary this year.
Amazing.
So we must have something in common. We've been going that long.
That's great. And then growing up, older brother, younger brother?
Younger.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Younger brother.
So were you the responsible older one, or?
I don't think either of us are responsible.
Those kind of brothers.
Yeah. No, we've always got on really well, pretty much. So, so it's good.
So going back to that sort of age, did you have an ambition, an aspiration, something that you wanted to be when you were older?
I think like most boys, wanted to be a racing driver.
Nice.
But that didn't really sort of kick in until I was about 15, I think. Okay. So I think probably saw a Nigel Mansell race on TV or something like that, and then thought, God, I like that. That looks really good fun to do.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I wanted to do. And I remember actually saying to Dad, I bet you'd be really proud of me if I was a Formula One driver. And he said, I'd be proud of you whatever you did.
So
it was like,
what a dad. That's
what
brilliant.
a dad. Yeah, that stayed with me. That's really stayed with me.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
But and also rallying. Love rallying as well.
Mm-hmm.
And used to do forest rallying as co-driver with my mate. So that was good. That was really good fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible. Is that so? When you're doing co-driving, do you have to sort of, what's your role? I guess what I'm asking as a co-driver, what do you do?
Ballast mainly. No, it's the more important role, really. I think it's the maps.
Sharp left, sharp left,
shouting out all that sort of thing.
Right.
But it's also making sure you get to the next time control on time. because you have to go on road sections as well between the forests. So you're on public roads. So you're you need to get to the next bit on time to the minute. So
is that the equivalent of a race controller in F1 then? Well, it's not. I know it's not the same thing, but in terms of you're in his ear, you're in the driver's ear, saying left.
Yeah,
right,
we speak to each other,
and then the times and all that.
Yeah, but you've got to get to the forest at a certain time to log in, so that you are ready to go when they want you to go.
Interesting.
And it's all done to the minute. So it's good fun. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm curious because I've never done any rally driving. I've not really been into it either. I'm more of a I like F1.
Yeah,
F1.
I think you should go and see some forest rallying. There's something pretty special about it. There's just this real silence, and then you'll hear a car exhaust in the background in the distant forest, and then you'll hear a whistle go, which means it's pretty close to you now. And then there's just this blast of noise and mud and gravel, and there you go. It's brilliant. Yeah, really good fun.
What kind of cars, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of make of cars and stuff are you in?
Well, we did we're really old, so we did a Mark II Escort. And then a Peugeot 205.
Nice.
So good. It was good fun.
I was in love with the Mark II Escort and the Mark III as well. Lovely cars.
I always felt really safe in the Escort. It's really good. Yeah.
Excellent. And in terms of F1, did you make it as an F1 driver in the end, or?
Yeah, just retired recently.
Retired?
Yeah. No, it never happened. Did a lot of karting though as well. Really enjoyed all that side of things. And then my first job when I started in graphic design, which we might touch on in a minute, but my boss was in racing in the British Touring Car Championship. So at the weekends for that first year while he was doing that, I would go and help out at the races, sort of behind the scenes mechanicking and clearing up really stuff. Cool. And it was really good fun. Really, really good fun. So I've always been sort of big into cars and things.
Computer games?
A little bit.
Racing,
but I do prefer the real thing absolutely. If I can. In fact, we were coming back from a maths exam, so we would have been about 17, 18. And we were just coming back from that. And it was wet on the roads, and we just came over a slight brow to the right, and my mate was driving, and the car spun in the middle of the road, went through a garden fence, and we ended up on someone's rockery. And then the lady comes out of the house and says to her husband, "It's happened again." So it's obviously not the first time someone's gone crashing through their garden.
It's happened again.
There you go.
Oh, that's funny. Oh wow! Okay, so it's in your blood, the rally stuff.
Yeah, it's good fun.
People's gardens, forests, it's all good.
It doesn't matter where you go, does it? No.
As long as there's a bit of grass somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then coming back to now, like how is that? Are you still doing that stuff now?
I'm not. No, I've got diagnosed with epilepsy quite a while back, and so I'm not able to drive at the moment. I haven't driven for about 4 years. So that's quite tricky to deal with.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But at the same time, other things come along. You get on with other stuff. Yeah.
How have you been able to? Have you processed that? I guess as well. I'm going to ask.
It wasn't easy at first because I was in my 20s when I first had to stop driving, surrender your license is what they call it. And I remember that was very emotional. Obviously, that was a big deal because cars was a big part of what I did. And from a practical point of view, getting to work was tricky. So I relied on my dad and my father-in-law were amazing, driving me to and from work as well. So there was real practical.
Did you say sharp left, sharp left?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the biggest hurdle.
Right.
And plus, when your passion's ripped away from you without you thinking about it, that's hard, isn't it? And that whatever it might be, for whatever reasons or health reasons as well, So it wasn't easy, but. There we go.
Okay, we'll come back to it if we can. I'd like to talk a bit more about it. But, so in terms of what you do now, what do you do now?
So I've got my own business, brand consultant, graphic design. It's called The Smithy Creative, and it plays on my surname, Smith.
Yeah.
I really wanted to make it about the craft of branding and design because I think quite often people see it as you press a button and a logo spouts out the other end. So this is much more about, we sort of break it down into 3 stages, one being collaboration, the craft of collaboration, and we work very closely with our clients and their in-house teams.
Yes.
We also work with some real trusted partners that we bring in. So if I need illustration done, I'll bring in a brilliant illustrator to get that. So we work really closely with them. So collaboration is a big part of what we do.
Sure.
And also the craft of clarity, which is making sure everyone is on the same page and that we're trying to solve the same problem and the right problem. Because quite often problems can be buried underneath other ones.
Absolutely.
So it's delving down and getting into that. Before you start on the creative side of things. And the clarity side can come through just by asking a series of questions.
Sure.
Or if you're doing a full rebrand of an organisation, it can be one-to-one interviews and team workshops and things. So a wide range of basically drilling down into what the problem is. And then the craft of creativity, which I believe can only really come out of once you've got a good grounding and a foundation. And then you can start building on that and finding out here's the solution. So.
I'm in the same field, so like I can really relate to a lot of that, and I think it's so important, isn't it, to get that clarity from the outset. And something you just said there is trying to solve the problem. Like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve?
That's it.
Because I think in this space, people can think, oh, we just need a fancy logo and a couple of colours and that's it, and we're good to go.
Exactly.
But it's so much deeper, isn't it?
It needs to be. It has to be. You need to know who are you talking to and why are you talking to them? Who cares? It's that kind of thing. Those sort of questions. What do you exist to do? All of that. And what do you want to happen out of this project? And all of that, which So it's,
which then drives the design side, like you said. If you can capture what their identity is. And you're able to go, okay, let's design something that fits that.
And the messaging, what are you saying through this, and how do you want them to respond to it? So all of that. So I really wanted to, the Smithy Creative was about craft really, and showing that there is a craft to it.
I would like to point out that your logo is beautifully put on this racing helmet behind us as well.
Well, you let me, didn't you? So I was going to take you up on that.
No, I just love it. It's great. Bringing the two together, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
You enjoy your job?
Love it. Yeah, I really like it. There's something about being self-employed. There's a real flexibility to it that I really like. And you get to do things like this, which you probably wouldn't be able to do if you were full-time employed.
That's fair.
Be more difficult. The flexibility is great. You get to meet loads of new people and you work with lots of different clients and it's just really good fun. And we specialise with charities. So that really ticks a value of mine of trying to make the world a better place in some small way. We work predominantly with charities and not-for-profits.
Something just come to mind. If someone was listening or watching today, and they wanted to branch out and become self-employed, what would you say would be a good step of courage to step into that?
I think do your research. I think I know that sounds a bit it could sound a bit silly, but actually spend a bit of time doing research because what are you launching? Does the world need it? Is it just a passion and it's just going to remain a hobby kind of thing, or is this actually a business idea that can work? So do some research
really
first of all.
Actually.
I know it sounds really silly, doesn't it?
But it's so powerful. Yeah,
it is. But like otherwise, you don't know if there's a need for it.
Yeah, sure. Sure. That's brilliant. I like that.
And have a bit of money behind you as well.
Have a bit of money. It's helpful, isn't it?
Save a little bit up.
I think if you do your research, then I think it's a stronger way to step into a market as opposed to just going, I think the world needs this, and then finding out they don't. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are doing, you do it sort of part-time or as a hobby. Look at the amount of Etsy shops and how successful they are and how they can grow into becoming your full-time job. So there's plenty. I mean, digital world has let us do so much more.
When did you start your business?
12 years ago in the middle of a recession.
So same in the middle, 2008, I think it was. It was that global recession.
That's it. Yeah.
And it took a step of courage. It takes courage to go, look, I'm going to put it out there. But touching on what you said there, I just went from 5 days a week with my employer down to 4 days. Yeah. And just did one day, trying to build a business, and then it slowly went down. Yeah. And then took the plunge at the end. Yeah. But I think that's really, I like where you've gone with that. Have a sensible approach to it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the way I did it. Mine was, I was a bit more forced into it, but we can touch on that a bit later on.
All right, we'll come back to that as well. All right, so I thought we could learn a little bit about you. Yeah. About your character. Okay. About your personality. Yep. So Would you say on the scale of introvert, extrovert that you sit somewhere on the...
I think now it's probably a little bit more introvert. I think when I was younger, it was more extrovert, although I've always needed a little bit of time for reflection on my own. So I just need that little bit of headspace just to be on my own. So that refreshes me and re-energizes me. But at the same time, I like clowning around with friends, and that's also brings a lot of energy to it as well. So bit of a mixture, but possibly.
Did you and your brother share a room when you were growing up?
No, we had 2 separate rooms.
Just wondered if that plays into it. That's all.
Yeah, don't know.
Okay.
What the need for being alone?
Yeah, if you're sharing a room with someone all the time, does that have an impact on?
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know either.
No,
just interesting.
Yeah.
So, love languages. You've heard of love languages?
I have heard of them. Yeah.
Have you done the test?
A while ago. It was quite a while ago, but it was. Is there one called Words of Encouragement?
Words of Affirmation.
Affirmation. Yeah. That one's definitely top. I think. Nice. Especially with self-employment, there's a lot of encouragement needed and affirmation. Right. So I definitely need that little "you're doing all right," keep going kind of thing. Yeah, so that really helps.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Encouragement is good. And would you say that let me rephrase that. Would you say you are emotionally driven or logically driven or somewhere in between?
Initially, it'll be the gut reaction is the emotional side of things, but then I've been learning to try and bring in the logical bit just after that. So instead of like reacting, it's just my gut's saying this. Let's just think about that logically as well. So I'm getting better at that.
Okay.
But actually in my work, it's a more logical approach to it initially. So it's almost the other way around.
Right.
So we talked about that clarity and getting to the right problem. So there's that side of it first before then the creative side and the more emotional side comes out. So a bit of a reverse of when I'm working.
The other way around. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask your partner, Tracy?
Yeah.
Which way around she is? Do you know? Is she logical, emotional? Do you balance? I guess where I'm going with this is, do you balance each other out, or are you quite similar?
No, she's reasonably emotional as well.
Okay.
So, but it works.
It works.
Yeah.
25 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll keep going back to that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you more of a make things happen kind of person, or do you tend to go with the flow?
I tend to go with the flow, but I do, obviously, particularly with work, I do have a plan of that week, that day, or whatever it might be. Sure. But there's always flexibility in that because obviously things come in that you're not expecting and you have to react a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm quite a planner on bigger things. So whether it's planning for the future or holidays or whatever it might be. So about 4 years ago, we went to Canada and we did a load of planning in where we want to go. So we started in Calgary.
Oh, nice.
No, we didn't. We started in Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver.
Yeah, we met our friends there, and they live in Calgary, so they were on holiday in Vancouver, and then we did a bit of a road trip across back to their place in Calgary, and then stayed with them for a few days. So that was fantastic. But yeah, that was loads of planning. Which Airbnb? Where are we going to? How long are we going to stay there for? And how long is it going to take to? Plus, Tracy was going to be doing all the driving, of course, because I wasn't able to drive. So we had to take loads into consideration. How much was she up for driving? Because nowhere's close in Canada.
That's quite.
You're driving for 3 or 4 hours easily.
I've had some Canadian friends over here in the UK, and then if they say, "Oh, we should go here," I'll be like, "Yeah, it's about a 4-hour drive." They're like, "Oh, is that it?" And you're like, "No, it's quite a long time actually."
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of a bother for us. Actually.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So that's a good balance, though, isn't it? To go with the flow and make things happen, have a bit of planning.
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't always work out, but that's what you're trying to do, isn't it? It's just trying to get that balance, I think.
And tapping into your emotional side, if it doesn't work out, is there a frustration or something, or have you mastered that Zen-like approach to?
Definitely, that's still at the frustration level, but hopefully trying to just manage that. It's okay. There's some things you can deal with, isn't there? And there's other things you just can't influence them. They are what they are. The bus is late. The bus is late. You know what you're going to do about it. So there's some things you can worry about, and other things not worth
You
it.
can't. You
No,
can't.
you can't
I don't know.
change it.
Does that come with age or just wisdom?
Wisdom maybe, but
wisdom.
probably with age as
Probably
well.
with age,
Yeah, I'm
'cause
old
we're
now,
quite
so,
young, I would say.
We'll
we're
say
quite
that.
young,
Yeah, we'll say that. So, but yeah, I think there is a bit of experience. You start to learn a little bit, don't you?
Yeah.
I think you learn a lot more about yourself as well as you get older. Hopefully.
I think so. I'm talking to my kids at the moment about letting things go and how important it is to sort of just let things go.
Yeah.
Not put things on.
Do you sing the song to them or not?
Oh, not anymore.
No. Okay, fair enough.
No. But that was, oh my gosh, yeah. That Frozen movie was just something.
Yeah.
It was just something for the parents to just bear it.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful now because I can sort of break into song as I'm dropping them off to school.
Excellent.
And now they're like, no, Dad, please, no.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like,
you can
no,
fully
you
embarrass
did this
them.
to me.
Yeah, it's the role of the father, isn't it?
Yeah. I love embarrassing them. All right, here's an interesting question, I think.
Okay.
What's a good compliment? Oh, this sort of presses into your words of affirmation thing as well.
Yeah.
What's a good compliment that's been said about you that you remember?
It was that someone came to me and said that I had encouraged them to do something that they'd not tried before and always wanted to. And because I love seeing people flourish and find out what they're really good at and going for it, even if it's a new thing or a hobby or whatever it might be. So to have that said to me, it's like, you encouraged me to do that. Yeah, that really resonated, and that was a good feeling. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can I ask what it was, or
I can't remember, to be honest.
Can't
remember what it was.
Fair enough. But you unlocked something in them, so
yeah,
that's cool.
It's good to know.
It kind of lines up. Sorry, I see patterns. So in terms of your branding and helping people to get clarity on who they are as an identity in terms of the organisation, and then that compliment that you remember is helping someone to move forward with something that they wanted to try.
Yeah, it's a big part of me. I do like encouraging people where I can, but at the same time, I will as long as it doesn't hurt other people. There's a big justice side of me as well,
right.
Which I'm quite happy to stand up to people.
Yeah.
Well, not happy, but I will stand up to people if I feel I need to.
Where's that come from?
Don't know. There's definitely a little bit of a rebel inside me, and I think it's come from my two grandmothers, particularly. Right. Interestingly enough, so I think there's some of that in me. But there's a fairness that I need to see in the world, and if I don't see it, then I try and do my bit to get that fairness back into it.
Yeah, good on you. It takes bravery, right? Because it's a lot easier.
That's what we're talking about, maybe, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
Courage. Yeah.
But it's so easy just to go, look, I've got my own stuff to worry about, and I haven't got time to stand up for something that might be right.
If someone's being hurt and there's something I can do about it, I will try. And it doesn't always work, and it might not be that I'm right. I might see a situation differently, but at the same time, but it's good to have that conversation anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so as well. Excellent. All right. What do people misunderstand about you? What would you say they misunderstand about you?
I think they misunderstand that my humour sometimes is a mask for something going on underneath. I can sometimes fear. Maybe there's a fear, and I try and mask it with humour. Right. Hospitals, I hate hospitals. So I will try and make jokes about anything or see anything funny just to try and distract me effectively. So there's things like that the humour can be a mask. But how would you know?
How would you know? They'd have to know you, wouldn't they? To see past
they would.
That,
And there's probably a couple of friends who would.
Yeah. Or a bunch of people watching a YouTube channel one day, I don't know. Now they know.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
he's always just not funny.
Always just not funny.
Yeah.
I want to touch on some of your comedy a little bit later on, but we'll get there. Do you have a rhythm? So the reason for this question is going courage. Yeah, we're about building courage. We're about exploring courage. We're about learning about courage. But courage takes action. Yeah. And action takes a little bit of productivity, I would say, where it can take some productivity. And so I'm really interested in the way that people create systems, rhythms, habits in how they stay productive.
Yeah.
So my question was going to be around that.
Okay, so I think productive-wise, it helps to really enjoy what you do on a daily basis, which I do. So there's that want to get up and get cracking kind of thing. Although I'm certainly not up at the crack of dawn. It's much more of a leisurely, slower pace before I get going. But thankfully, I've got a garden office, so I'm in there by 9. So it's by no means.
The commute's pretty good.
The commute's brilliant. Yeah. So there's that works. Having that love of what you do. There's also about energy levels and just managing energy levels as well. And I've just discovered this app called Welltory. Welltory,
okay.
yeah. And it basically measures your heart rate variability, which is the gaps in between the heartbeats, because they're not all exactly the same on the same rhythm. There'll be slight differences in between each beat, and it can tell where your energy levels are from that and from how stressed you are and all that. So it's really interesting, that side of things. So there's that as well. And I'm not a list person.
Right.
I don't do lists really. So what I tend to do, certainly work-wise, is I'll put the items that I need to do into the calendar as blocks.
Right.
So even if it might be you need to send that email or something, I might just put that in as a block. And if I don't manage to do it that day, I'll shift it. So it's always visual, because I'm a visual person. I need to see things.
Yep.
So lists I just lose and get bored of looking at. So, but yeah, the blocks work for me. That helps me stay productive. Yeah.
Excellent. And then that way you could sort of control or in some sense on top of the kind of things that you need to get done, because you can visually see.
Well, lists for me can just never get done. You know, they just sit around. Whereas if it's a block of time I need to give to this, then it's more likely to get done. Yeah. So that works for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of do you keep yourself active? Do you keep yourself, mind, body and soul and all that kind of stuff? Are there things that you sort of build into your life in those areas?
I try to have a little bit of a quiet time in the morning.
Right.
Just sort of 10, 15 minutes just before I start the day, try and get a bit more peaceful. Might try and have a pray. So just to start a little bit quieter before getting into the day. And then, just trying not to overdo it during the day. Stopping every 30 minutes when you're doing, what it's like when you're looking at a screen all day. It can be really, so it's trying to stop every 30 minutes and just doing something which is a little bit different, or staring into the distance so that you're not just staring at the same point every time.
Are you good at that? Like making that break every 30 minutes?
Yeah, pretty good. I've set timers on my phone from time to time,
smart.
which works really well.
Yeah.
And I've started, I was reading something about juggling and how just doing juggling for 2 minutes. And
actually?
Just with 3 balls sort of thing. And that seems to be quite good fun. Just distracts you for a moment, does something physical, and then you sit back down and crack on again.
I really struggle. Even when I put my little timers on, I go, 1 second, I'm just in a zone. And before you know, it's 3 hours and your brain's fried. And whatnot.
Exactly.
So I like that. That's good. What comes to mind initially when you think of the word courage for you?
I think it is about making yourself deliberately vulnerable or intentionally vulnerable. That's what my definition. But it's interesting, courage, because you can have one scenario, but people will see it from 2 different points of view. So I don't know. For example, a firefighter going into a burning building to save a little girl on the top floor. Most of us would say, and rightly so, that's courageous. But the firefighter might well say, well, I'm trained for this. It's what I do every day. I know what I'm doing. There's no problem. I don't see it as courageous. Another example might be someone just getting out of bed. You go, well, what's courageous about that? But until you know that they've got mental health problems, or they're depressed, or there's a real problem there with that side of them, then that is a hugely courageous thing to do, is just to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah. So you can have these scenarios, but people see them very, very different ways. So that's that really interests me. I think it's easier to see courage in other people than yourself.
It's a great point. Yeah. I think as well, I like what you said there in terms of the firefighter being trained. It's like when you know what you're doing and you're not pushed, I guess, out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And there's an element of familiarity and comfort there. Yeah. Whereas, if you're doing something that you're not trained to do, let's say, in that scenario. You know, that takes some bravery, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you can put yourself in dangerous positions that other people wouldn't, like you're saying, wouldn't find dangerous at all. You know, so someone might want to throw themselves out of an aeroplane with a parachute on the back. I wouldn't see that as courageous at all, but they are putting themselves in a vulnerable position intentionally, but they wouldn't see it as courageous, whereas someone else may. I certainly wouldn't want to throw myself out of an aeroplane.
It's on my list of things to do.
Is it?
I'm not very good with heights.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Are you not?
No.
Yeah, I'm not. So roller coasters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been on roller coasters, but there's something about a roller coaster where you're strapped in, you know that as scary as it could be, you're strapped in, it's on a track or whatever, right? But some of this other stuff like bungee jumping and parachuting and all the rest of it, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's a considerable height as well,
Massive, yeah, no, I could never do bungee jumping.
I couldn't do bungee jumping, no, I don't. It doesn't appeal to me.
No, no way.
Whereas a skydive, I just think, I don't know, there's something about me that would be petrified. Yeah. But there's something about me that just goes, that would be the ultimate.
Yeah, go for it.
So I want to get there, let's do this.
Exactly. Yeah, you should. It should be really good. I'll tell you what would terrify me is going underwater in a shark cage or something like that.
Mate.
That's hell basically. So I don't do water, not since seeing Jaws when I was about 8 years old or something like that. I think that's ruined many people's lives.
I think our whole generation just doesn't want to go in the water. That's it.
That terrifies me. The
just
thought
go
of
swimming
that.
pools. That's it.
Yeah. Even in the swimming pool, in the back of my mind. Yeah, the kids really take the mick out of me, but it's always on my mind. It's weird, isn't it?
People do some crazy. I saw something on Instagram the other day where this lady, it looked like she was going to do a zip wire. At a really high height. And they didn't tell her it wasn't a zip wire, it was a bungee. And I just thought, look, part of me was like feeling really bad for her. But then I thought, look, she obviously is okay with heights because she was going to do a zip wire from that height. Yeah. But they just pulled a prank and it was a bungee. And I was like, I'd be so upset after that. I'd be like, just don't trust anyone again.
No, exactly, yeah. Can I do the zip wire now? Yeah. No, I've done that.
Yeah. And around that, have there been, well, you mentioned water there, Jaws, etc. Have there been times where you've had to do stuff that you were pretty scared about doing and trying to overcome?
I don't know if I've had to. I think the redundancy in 2012 was a forced into doing something else.
Right.
But I could have gone and got another job, but it didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. I felt like I'd always wanted to try going it on my own. Yeah. So I guess there was a choice involved, but there was a time limit to it. So I had to decide whether I was going to do it or not. And I did.
What got you over the line? What made you think, I'm going to go for it?
I think it was the fact that I've always wanted to try and wonder what it would be like to be self-employed and run your own business. And so I thought, well, this is an opportunity. And going back to emotion again, that gut reaction in me was saying, I think this is the right thing to do. And Tracy was amazing with it as well, and just so supportive. And we both thought, okay, let's go for it. Yeah. Let's try this. It was interesting because I was working at a charity before, so I've seen charities inside and out, and now obviously from externally working with them. But we were asked as middle managers to save lots and lots of money. There was savings needed. So we were all asked to come up with ideas for how we would save that money. So one of them was, I said, well, we could get rid of my role. And so that was the one they chose.
Right.
So
he's voluntarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so I lost my job, but at the same time, I kind of thought, well, at least they went with my idea. So it felt like a victory.
Yeah. Was there something happening in your subconscious there, going, here's a way I can force myself to
self-detonate your yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but no, I'm glad it happened. It was a horrible thing to go through, but
there is something in that. Have you seen? I don't know if you're a fan of the Chris Nolan Batman movies.
Not seen them. No,
not seen them.
No.
Okay,
you're the superhero man.
I am a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away because it's really cool.
Okay,
it's a cool little thing. But where I was going with that is when you have a safety net, you tend to not take as big a risk as you would without the safety net, because you think, so you coming out of that job now, kind of now you're in a place where you've got to make a decision and go, Do I go on my own, or do I go get another job?
Exactly.
You went to go out on your own?
I had 3 months money, redundancy. That was it. So we kind of had to go for it really in a big way. But then, like we were talking earlier, it was in the middle of a recession.
Yes.
And I think I left in the June or July. And then the London Olympics started, so no one was doing any work. So it was suddenly you just think, I've made the worst decision of my life. And then it all started to pick up again, thankfully. But I think if there is an element of, well, it doesn't really matter if I don't go for it, because I can always fall back on that, then I think you're right. I don't think you go for quite as big a risk and push yourself quite as much as you could.
Which is interesting, because when you hear some of these big success stories, globally, and some of these, really successful people, and you hear their story, it's like they were down to their last thing, or, they didn't have any money in the bank anymore, or there was a personal tragedy or something, and then it just drives them because there's nowhere else to go. There's no other choice. And I wonder how much of a factor that plays into our decisions around courage,
Yeah. And I was also reading about one of the actors in the series Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen it.
It's fantastic. But she was about to take a job in a warehouse or a call center or something like that. And this audition came along and she got the job. And then your whole life changes within, a very short space of time from I might be going down this route to all of a sudden, wow, look what's happened. I never thought this was going to happen.
And there's so many of those stories, aren't there?
Yeah, loads of them. Loads of them. I think the fun stuff happens when we're out of our comfort zone a lot of the time without us realising it. That's where the fun happens. It's scary, but that can be where the fun happens.
That's where the pulse is, right? The ups and the downs.
Yeah.
As opposed to the flat line.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's good. Was there a movie or a book or something that really inspired you to be more courageous in life?
I think the Shawshank Redemption was that's been a big that was a motivator for me, and still is actually, because it's about that injustice thing, but also the fact that character Andy makes this terrible situation into a positive for other people as well as himself.
I like that. I like that you said that, for other people as well as himself.
Yeah, he really does. Like without giving it all away, but the library that he starts, there's a huge benefit to other people that he turns around, but he also at the same time is stitching up the people who are are holding people under their own will to serve their own needs. So there's this double thing going on, this injustice, and
very
it's a great film.
Smart,
really
very smart.
Yeah, really good film. And then there's a book called The Boys in the Boat.
Okay.
And you've got to read this. It's fantastic. My friend from Canada sent me this. It just arrived one day. It was like, who's this from? And it tells the story of the 1930s Washington University rowing team, Rowing 8, and how their preparation for going to the 1936 Berlin Hitler Olympics. But it's told through the story, particularly of one guy called Joe Rance. And his mother died when he was 4. His father married again, but Joe and her didn't really get on. She didn't really get on with him, and he likewise. And when he was about 15, they abandoned him, the home that they'd sort of half finished building, and he was left alone to raise himself, effectively aged 15. And he managed to get himself to college and then to Washington University, and then entered the rowing team and worked out he was actually really, really good at it. And it's that whole story of complete determination to overcome a really difficult time in a huge recession. Overcoming poverty and all the hardships that he faced, and just dogged determination. And they won gold in the 1936 Olympics. Amazing story. The Boys in the Boat. That's the one. That is the one to read.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic true story.
Amazing. I like the thread there as well. In terms of you going and becoming self-employed, The Shawshank Redemption, in terms of him making good of a bad situation, and he's had to step out of his comfort zone, and he's got the injustice side. I mean, it's a beautiful film. It
is. It's perfect.
It's just an incredible film.
It is.
So there's a bit of a thread there, isn't there, about trying new things, and without trying new things, we don't know what we're good at, because we'll just stay in our own lane.
I've always loved learning new things and trying new things. I was never academic. School, I didn't really enjoy school that much. What I really did enjoy was sport and metalwork, woodwork, technical drawing, all the kind of hands-on stuff is what I really enjoyed doing. So there was a lot of learning involved in that rather than just sitting writing in a textbook. And I think when I was younger, I cared quite a bit about what people thought of me,
right?
Which I think is quite common.
Yeah.
As I got older, I started to want to explore more and care a little bit less about what people thought. And so, because the people closest to me are the ones that really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what other people think,
yeah,
as long as they're not being hurt by what I'm doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of liberation in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because we when it comes to people pleasing, you can think people think things that they actually don't really care, at the heart of it, or they might make a comment, but what's underneath the comment is their own issue that they're going through that day, and we could carry that as that was something about my design work or something about something else that I did, and we carry it with us.
The work side of things is where you put in your heart on the table, really, because you put your heart and soul into this piece of work, and you're presenting it. Yeah. And any comment that comes back is like a dagger in your heart if it's negative, isn't it? It's horrible.
Yeah,
but there's about being vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just seeing what happens.
It's so tricky, isn't it? Oh, well, we love your design. It's amazing. It's exactly what we wanted. It's hit all the points. But can you make it blue?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we're not going for that, are we? But no, I just like blue.
Yeah, exactly. Or you haven't done this, and this. It's like, but we discussed this last time. It's like that. Yeah.
It takes you back to, primary school when you've done a bit of artwork and you're trying to show your teacher, and they're not very impressed.
No, not good enough to put on the fridge at home.
Yeah, it's not good. Didn't make the cut.
No, it didn't make the cut. No.
But I think there's something really important about trying new things and just going for it. And like you said, does it really matter what people think about something,
Because I think, talking about my definition of courage as being intentionally vulnerable, you can do that and it doesn't matter. So I did a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I did a stand-up comedy course because it was something I was always really intrigued about. I love the art of stand-up, and so I thought, might as well just give that a go. And again, it's like, I'm going to be very vulnerable here. It's going to be scary,
sure,
but I'm going to be learning something new. And what's the worst that can happen? Not much, really.
So for the majority of people who haven't done any stand-up comedy, what was that like?
Terrifying, but at the same time, really exhilarating as well. It was a 10-week course with about 15 of us, 16 of us, something like that.
Right.
And it's just that first week of arriving at the venue for your first 3-hour session together is just scary because you don't know these people.
Yeah. And
the first thing we did was to get around in a circle and try and make the other people laugh, and it's just terrifying. And you come away just thinking, I hope they laughed and I hope they like me. But so and then you get to know each other, and bit by bit, week by week, you get more confident. That was the thing it gave me, actually, was quite a lot of confidence.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Touching on the jumping out of a plane if you're scared of heights.
Yeah.
It's like it's the complete other side of the spectrum, isn't it, to do that? And then you kind of face your deepest, darkest fear, at that height. And I guess here, when we're talking about people pleasing and then going to do stand up, it's the same principle, isn't it? To get up and actually people are going to judge you. Like it's the place to judge someone, isn't it?
Yeah,
How funny they are.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, most of the events I did about 8 gigs, I suppose, something like that. Not many, but it was good fun. They were 5-minute sets that I was doing.
You were featured in a magazine as well, I remember.
Yeah, Sorted magazine.
Yeah.
It was fun, actually. I'd never written 2,500 words before, so it took a bit.
Wow.
That was the article. So, but it was just an interesting idea of just explaining my story and what motivated me to do it. And it was that idea of people say, "Oh, you're really funny. You should do stand up and that." And a lot of people get said to, because we can all make each other laugh around the dinner table.
Sure.
No problem. We all do it, don't we?
Yeah.
It was
Well, I'll
like,
try. I don't know if I'm successful.
Mind you, I've never been to dinner with you, so we'll see, won't we? But there was that. Yeah, there was that idea. Well, let's just give this a go and write some material. And it was fun.
Did you test out on your wife and kids?
No, I didn't tell them any.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't tell them anything about it, because the final showcase at the end of the session was for invite all your friends and family, come along. And there was about 70 or 80 people in the room with all the other people, and I was on last because it was alphabetical order.
Right. Oh,
so
mate.
But actually, I quite enjoyed going last because in a way it felt like it was my gig, which was really selfish.
Yeah.
But that was kind of how we were taught to feel.
Sure.
It was like your gig. But that was scary because it was fine doing it in front of strangers, but it was, again, difficult. More tricky doing it in front of friends and family.
Yeah, because they know you, right?
They know you.
You can't put on this.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but again, it did give me a lot of confidence. Most of the events were really good because they're called bringer events. So you have to bring a friend with you if you're going to perform.
Right.
Which means it isn't just people who think they're comedians talking to each other.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas they're not really taking an interest because they're thinking about what they're going to be saying in 5 minutes time.
Which makes sense.
So you've actually got a proper audience, which is really good. And you get called up randomly as well, so you don't know the order. So it's just, again, you're sitting there on edge a little bit.
Which probably helps, doesn't it? The edginess, gets the adrenaline up, and then you're able to perform. Yeah, you're
certainly buzzing by the time you get up there. Yeah,
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it was a good thing to do. Glad I did it.
Yeah. Do you think you'd return to it?
I don't know.
Not sure.
Don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I sort of try these things like, I've done that now, and now I move on.
What's next?
Sort of thing.
Yeah,
that idea. Cool. Yeah.
I like that. Like, you said earlier on, like, you only live once, right? So want to experience
give it a go.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Whether it's dangerous or not, or risky or not, just try something.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Really good. Was there any other books or movies that spoke to you?
They were the ones that came to mind, but I am reading a book at the moment which is called Hidden Stress When the Body Says No.
Oh, interesting.
And it's by a doctor, and it's very much about the mind and body are so linked, which they are, and how chronic stress, often hidden away, can cause disease. And it's that fascinating link between that. So I'm reading that at the moment. So the question, can a person die of loneliness? Well, possibly, yeah, because you do hear stories of a partner dying, don't you? And a few weeks later, the other one passes away. Yeah. So, what's going on in there, and there's the well-known thing about, smoking causes lung cancer. Well, it doesn't cause it, because otherwise everyone who smoked would get lung cancer, but they don't. So there's that side of it. What else is going on here? And from the research that doing is chronic stress is a player in it as well as your sort of DNA makeup and things. But there's a lot more to it. So I think that's where the idea of being intentionally vulnerable is really important in talking to friends about how you're feeling. Yeah. Because suppressing emotion is not good for you.
No, it's not. No.
Particularly anger and frustration. And so I think it's really important to share, and also not to live someone else's life, which is a really easy thing to slip into if you're not careful. And
just to say to that as well, growing up in our generation, there was obviously elements of that, keeping up with the Joneses, etc. But I think in today's world, where you're just fed so much, social media, on the internet, whatever, there's so much to compare to that I think it's great to be inspired or to aspire to be, a certain thing or be like a certain person in a particular way. But what we see now is so many copycats, and they're not living their true self, and it's sad, isn't it?
It's dangerous. And well, I think in a way you could say that courage is essential to healthy living. If you were talking about it being making yourself vulnerable, so in opening up to friends and things like that, it's essential.
It is.
So, but not easy to do.
But not
so it
easy
takes
to
courage
do.
to be open and honest and things, doesn't it?
And it's interesting. I mean, there's so many conversations around being vulnerable, and I guess there's wisdom that comes with that. You know, who you're talking to.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, are you talking to someone who is empathetic, someone who potentially loves you, or at least has care and concern about you, as opposed to, you know, people who might be in it for the wrong reasons, and then maybe that's not a good time to be vulnerable. You're better off creating a little bit of a boundary or
yeah, definitely. I think you can only have 2 or 3 people that you could really share close stuff with. I know I have. There's certain people you definitely wouldn't want to tell, but there's 2 or 3 really close friends who I've been friends with for years and years, and we can share anything with, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Especially in the men's space as well, I would say.
Yeah,
I think it's, you know, hopefully there's a shift, but I know growing up, like, men just do not talk about how they feel. No. You know, stiff upper lip and all the rest of it, and what you find is, I have no statistics or data to prove this, but, you know, linking back to the book that you're reading, you know, if you're not talking about your feelings, then you're going to see men who have this whole range of diseases, stroke, you know, bone issues and you know, gut issues and all sorts of stuff. So I think it's really important.
No, it is really important. Yeah, everything's linked, mind and body, and all of that.
I wish I paid more attention in biology. I didn't. I really didn't.
No, I know. No,
I did psychology, so I was more in the mind space.
Oh, you're the mind bit. Yeah.
But okay. You need to pay more attention to body.
Yeah.
So Stuart, I wanted to ask you if you had an example from your life that you really had to push in and dig deep and step into courage in order to get through it.
I think the biggest one for me is my epilepsy. Was being diagnosed with that with early 20s, I think. Right. So I had the first seizure when I was 21. I was at a 21st birthday party actually in a pub in London, and the dance floor was going, all the rest of it was banging, and then I had a seizure in the middle of the dance floor. So completely cleared the place. So that ruined a birthday for someone, didn't it? Yeah. So so that was when I was first diagnosed, but I was able to continue driving then. So it wasn't until I was about mid-20s where I had another one. Right. And that was the big one where I had to stop driving, and made an enormous difference to life in general. Made it a real challenge.
Right, of course.
I think I'm getting to...
Can I ask, sorry, so when you had the first one, obviously you've not had one before then because it was your first one. And so did you know what was happening? Were you aware, you know, I haven't had any experience in that.
I had no idea what was happening. There are different types of epilepsy and seizures. Mine are the full-on seizures where I collapse and shake and all the rest of it. No idea what was going on. Basically blacked out, and you slowly wake up. Usually with paramedics over me, so that's always a bit strange. And often they're saying my name, which was the first question we talked about, wasn't it? So I'm starting to hear that come in. But interestingly, when I hear someone say my name, I will probably have a flashback to waking up from a seizure. So hearing my own name is actually a problem sometimes for me. So so that's always a challenge. So just having my name called can be tricky. I don't know anything about what's going on at the time. I sometimes get a little bit of a sense that one is coming. They call it an aura, so there might be an idea that it's coming, so I can get to a safe place. But other times I won't have any warning at all, and I just collapse and wake up wherever I am, sort of thing. The last one I had was on Christmas Day, which wasn't the greatest present anyone wanted, really. No. But and it affects Tracy massively. So she's the one that sees it. I don't see it, so I'm all right. But she has to live with it in her mind as well. So it's difficult. It affects everyone. It affects the whole family. It's not just me, and the way we live. It's difficult to be spontaneous. So I can't just jump in the car and, oh yeah, I'll just go and grab that. So everything has to be planned. It makes life quite challenging from that point of view.
Right, of course.
So yeah.
And going back, so going back to the first time it happened, and shortly afterwards, you said that your license was taken away, which for a driver, for someone who loves karting and rally driving, and all the rest of it, that's something being pulled away.
It was awful.
Yeah.
It really was awful. There was there was a lot of anger initially. It's a bit like a grieving process in a way. You're letting go of something, it was really, really difficult. But then after about 6 months of anger and frustration, I thought, well, I need to do something else. I need to make this into a positive if I can. And I learned to play the drums in that year. A friend of mine who was a professional drummer, he gave me about 2 lessons and a book and said, there you go, crack on, sort of thing. So, so that's what I did. So I suppose that idea of turning something from a horrible situation into a positive is something which I've tried to do throughout my life. So yeah, that's been a good, and I'm still drumming. So hopefully,
you're a great drummer. I've heard you drum a few times.
So that's been a blessing to people, hopefully. So I know I certainly enjoy it.
Excellent.
So
I like that because, like you said, you used the word grieving there, which I think is really powerful because it is, isn't it? And then going from that to go, okay, look, I can stay in this space, or I can go and try something new. And see what's out there, and I think you get to that point where you have to go through a point of, actually this is horrendous, and I'm very, very upset about it and angry. And then you thought, well, I can't carry on like this. I need to accept the situation, and then we move on, sort of thing. And so that was at that point. That's what I did. And that's very different, just to say, than burying it. Like, oh, okay, I don't want to deal with the emotion. I'm just going to move on and do something else. And, it's a bit like a rebound relationship where you've broken up with this girl and now you're just straight onto it. But there's a healing process that needs to happen. And acceptance that this is how I feel, going back to the book you were talking about mind and body and the connection between the two. Because it's an important piece of work, isn't it?
It is. And I still find it quite difficult to talk in detail about, because I don't fully understand it myself. Don't fully understand how I feel myself sometimes. So it is a bit strange, but I do have people I talk to about it, and they understand. And,
that's important.
It's important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's important, totally important. Right, and so we've got to the point where you were saying, you've got to make sure you plan things. And it's a little bit hard to be spontaneous about things. And has there been other episodes later on in life that have been tricky to deal with, or is there like something in place that you have in order to manage things?
I did eventually get my driving license back, because in the UK, if you're seizure free for a year, then as long as everyone seems happy and the medication's working, everything, you're allowed to drive again. Okay, so that was fine, and then I did have another one. I had to surrender my license again. So there's been 2 or 3 times where I've had to give my license back, and then you get it back a year later. But the worst one was having a seizure whilst I was driving on the M25 in the outside lane, which wasn't ideal. I was on the way to Brands Hatch to meet up with my brother, actually. So Brands Hatch is a big place for me. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. It feels like going home. It's really nice. But I was on the way there, and I just hit the central reservation, and the car came to a stop in the middle lane. And the first person that got to me was an off-duty paramedic. Thankfully, not that I knew anything about that at the time. So I was unhurt, and neither was anyone else hurt at all. Amazing. It was quite amazing, really, quite incredible. Shut the motorway. I was on the radio. That was my doing. Shut the M25. And as I was getting out the car, looking back, there's just 3 lanes of traffic. It's a bit like I'm seeing out of Mad Max or something like that, where you're looking back, there's these vehicles. So anyway, I rang my brother from the ambulance and said, this is what's happened. And he said, well, I'm at Brands. I'm here now. What I'll do is I'll watch a bit of racing, I'll have a coffee and stuff, and then I'll meet you at the hospital a bit later on.
What a brother.
There we are. So there we go. And this I suppose this is humour with fear again. So we got there. My son was there with Tracy as well, and they popped me in a wheelchair and said, we're just going to take you around to the neurology bit and do that. I said, I'll be all right walking. No, we'll take you in a wheelchair and that. Of course, my son is videoing this from behind, laughing his head off.
He's laughing his head off.
So us Smiths have a lot of compassion for each other. But
sounds like more Smiths are wearing that mask.
Exactly.
Think, you know.
So there's definitely a buried fear that gets covered up, I think, with all of us.
Yeah, wow. And you know, again, it's my curiosity more than anything else. You know, when that happened on the M25, again, it's not something you remember because you're unconscious when it happens, and then you come around. No
recollection of it at all. No, just remember waking up to broken glass everywhere. That was the initial thing I remember seeing, and then the rest is into the back of an ambulance and off you go, sort of thing. But it can take a little while to come round from them, sort of 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
right.
And then I can take a week to feel better after it, I think, because you ache a lot from just being the sort of that rigid positioning and shaking.
Sure.
So there's definitely physical after effects as well, and the emotional ones are ongoing as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And then, so after that, your license was taken away again.
Yeah. My brother said, does your license come with a reply envelope? So that when it arrives, it goes straight back again. Because it wasn't, I hadn't had it very long.
Free post.
Just throw it back in. Yeah.
Bless you. Oh, amazing. Earlier on, you were talking about, picking up drumming.
Yeah.
And so after the M25 thing, was there something else that you picked up after that, went back to?
It may have been the comedy at that point, I think. Yes, I think it probably was then. Yeah, it took me a little while to, again, just work out what had happened. I think it was more difficult for Tracy, again, because she gets the phone call from the ambulance crew, because I was phoning her rambling because I didn't know what was going on, so I was just making no sense at all. So, I passed it over to the paramedic. So it was probably a little bit after that I started to think about, okay, what's next, sort of thing, because you have to get on with work.
Yes.
That's the other thing with self-employed life. You don't get holiday pay or sick pay, do you?
No.
So there's you have to somehow find a way of working. But thankfully I can, and it's all right. So.
And I know you got really into cycling, didn't you, at some point?
Oh, that was again, that was in my 20s.
Oh, that was earlier on.
Yeah, that was after the rallying.
Right.
So I did some road racing and cycling, which was it's the hardest sport in the world, in my opinion. Yeah, it really is. It's sort of, there was about 60 riders in our races normally. They were about 60 miles, something like that, and it just hurts the whole time. So,
what's the drive? Why go through the pain?
I don't know. Someone asked me that once, and it was just like, I don't know. But afterwards, you feel real satisfaction in doing it. But at the time, it's uncomfortable, to put it mildly. Right. Yeah. But in fact, I was in a race in Kent, and there was a group had gone up the road. A group of cyclists had broken away, and they'd gone up the road. And after about an hour, I was thinking we could probably pull them back now if we start to work together, sort of thing. So I went to the front, and then someone said, well, we're not going to bother chasing them down with you, sort of thing. If you want to go and you don't do it on your own. He said, I've got work tomorrow. It's like, what was, as if we didn't, it's like,
you guys are free.
I'm just out for a little ride. It's like, but the competitive side of me didn't understand that. It's like, well, we got a chance of, we've got an hour yet, we can get them back. So, but it just made me laugh. I've got work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Are there, in all of this, is there anyone or a few people that have really helped you or pushed you in the realm of courage in your life? Well,
Tracy does every day. Yeah, she pushes me a lot.
Sounds like she's a keeper, Stuart.
She is. Yeah, she definitely is. Yeah. Yeah, no, she does. She goes on this mad journey with me, and she lets me do all these crazy things and new stuff, and she knows that I'm going to be doing something new at some point, and wonder what it will be. But she just goes along. along with it. Yeah, she's amazing. So yeah, definitely family are hugely important to all of us. We got a really strong family, and we all get on really well.
Amazing.
We don't have those tensions, particularly that you do hear of in lots of families. We're very grateful for that. So
it sounds like you've got a real
really well. We've got a good support network.
Oh, okay, that's good. And it sounds like you've got a great sense of humour among you as well when your son's taking videos when you're in the wheelchair.
We do. We really do take the mick out of each other, and that's fine. I'd miss it if we didn't. I think. It's something about it.
There's a bonding. There's a bonding process.
Yeah, there is. But apparently, because when we went to Canada to see our friends, that the humour's different there. They don't get that. So if you're taking the mickey out of each other, they think you've kind of you're being a bit, why are you doing that sort of thing. But but that's how it works with us. It works well.
Yeah, it works well. Yeah. The Americans get us a little bit more, don't they?
Yeah, I think
British humour. I think they quite like it.
We love it. But I think, there was definitely family. There was a youth leader when I was growing up in my teens called Roger. Sadly, no longer with us, but he was amazing. He just gave his life for these young people, really. Just to spend all his time helping us grow and develop and all of that side of things. He was hugely influential in not only as me as a person with my Christian faith and in lots and lots of ways. So we were very blessed that he was in our life. And on a professional level, I couldn't have sort of begun what I was doing without the support of Prem Design, who are based in Mortlake, who let me just rock up at their studio whenever, just so I wasn't going mad on my own sort of thing. Right. So they've been amazing. So they're really great. And another guy called Mark Steen Adamson, who runs a branding agency down in Cheltenham called Asher & Co.
Okay.
Again, really inspiring guy and to me, and always told me just keep doing great work, and that's always stuck with me. If I can keep doing that, then I won't be doing so bad. So there's lots of other people, I'm sure. But
those ones are standing out right now.
Few highlights.
Amazing. Love that. And linking back to some of the stuff in terms of epilepsy and then linking to Tracy. Trying to put myself in her shoes, I guess, and getting those calls, and like you said, she's the one who sees stuff. Yeah, I think there's a lot of courage there to. Can I say this without sounding to allow you to go off and keep trying new things?
Yeah, I know. I know. She is. She's amazing like that. She's really, really good. So she's the support definitely that's there all the time. She's the constant sort of thing. So and she probably takes the brunt of it.
Right, sure.
Whereas, like you say, I don't really know half of what's going on. But I'm always onto something new. My next thing is about trying to write a play at the moment, which I've never done before.
Are you trying to write a play?
Yeah, I know. This is the next thing. So I've got the setting sorted out. I know the story roughly, which I'm sort of sketching out at the moment, and I've just developed the 5 main characters. So I've got a little backstory to each of those because you've got to know who they are before you can start putting words in their mouths. From what I've been reading, anyway, doing a bit of research on that. And I've got a friend who writes sketches and plays from time to time. So I'll be drilling him for some ideas and for how do I do this. So I think the next stage is structuring it from what I'm reading. So we'll see how that goes.
So if you're listening or watching this a couple of years down the line, you heard it here. It was exclusive.
Yes. It may not be out yet.
We may not be out yet, but the next Shakespeare, he was here.
Yeah, it may never happen. And that's the bit. I mean, it doesn't matter if it never happens. You tried it, and sometimes the courage is in stopping doing something. There's all this thing about never give up, but actually, you should. If something really isn't working, then you should stop it. So there's courage in that, isn't there?
There is. There's a guy called Aaron Sorkin. He wrote The West Wing, Newsroom. He's written a few. Moneyball.
Moneyball. I've seen that.
Yeah, and A Few Good Men. So I saw him.
Brilliant.
And so The Newsroom, he did 3 series. and then he stopped. And it was brilliant. It was a brilliant TV show in its day. And he kept getting asked, why did you stop? He's like, well, the story's come to an end. Like, you got to end when it's good. You know, the courage, like you said, to stop when it's
This is right. Exactly what happened with Schitt's Creek. They did 6 series.
Okay.
And then that was it.
That was done.
The story's done. Why do you need to go on? And it was the time to stop. So there's importance in that, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so too. So to the makers of Matrix Resurrections, you should have stopped at 3. That's a bugbear of mine.
Is it? Yeah, I've only seen the first one. Oh. It went on a bit, did it?
1, 2, and 3 were brilliant. Yeah. But the 4th one that's come out recently, it was just terrible.
All right.
I
won't bother with that then.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
I could do a whole video on that.
Like Jaws 10.
Jaws 10.
How many did they do of those?
They did quite a few, didn't they? If you were in my shoes, what would you ask yourself about courage?
That's a really good question. I personally am intrigued as to why some people see a situation as courageous and others don't. And I don't know the answer, which is why I explained about the firefighter idea. Yeah. But someone out there must sort of have a view on that more than we do. I don't know. I would love to drill into that a little bit more, actually.
It's interesting because where you got to with that was the response of the person depends on where they're at, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how courageous they are. And I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
I think, someone losing, I know this can sound terrible, someone losing a banana, right?
Yes.
Who's never lost anything before in their life.
Yeah.
It's such an abstract an example.
It is. Where did that come from?
I don't know. I saw a banana over there, so I was
okay.
But, it's down to the person where they're at, what kind of a life they've lived. And, things can be super scary.
Yeah.
And they need courage to overcome finding the banana or whatever it is that they're trying to
exactly.
get to. So I think there's something there, Otherwise we can just like paintbrush everyone and go, oh yeah, this isn't courageous or this is courageous, and start putting it into little
and
labels.
Like I was saying earlier, I don't think it's easy to see courage in ourselves. I think it's easier to see it in other people. Most of the time, that's my experience anyway.
I think you're right.
I'm inspired by other people. It's hard to inspire yourself, isn't it? I think I don't think that's that common.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know if it's a British culture as well, but to take stock of what you've done and then be proud of it feels a little bit unnatural. Yeah. Whereas I think in other cultures, and I'm not pointing at America specifically, but in other cultures, they can be quite proud of what they've achieved and things like that. Yeah, which isn't a bad thing either. So it's kind of just trying to.
Someone was saying to me the other day about it's not good to look back on things or being nostalgic and all the rest of it. But I was doing some reading, and it is, because actually it reminds you of what you've done in the past, and actually I'd quite like to do that again, or I could do that again. Look at what I have done and what's in the future.
Absolutely, it reminds me of this time. The short version of the story is I was trying to do something, and I had a panic attack. It was like quite a big, it was years and years ago. And the only thing that got me back on track was me sitting there by myself and reminding myself of how many other things I've done that are much harder than the thing that's in front of me. Yeah. And then that brought me back home again. And I was like, well, actually, this isn't that bad. This is just X, Y, Z. Yeah. And then going forward. So I think you're right.
Exactly.
Going back and looking at your achievements.
It's a healthy thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It grounds you,
Yeah, it puts things in perspective and reminds you of what you could do in the future.
Yeah, definitely. All right. If you could sum up everything that we've talked about today, how would you sum it up in Stuart's mind?
I think you're already being courageous just by being alive, because none of us know what's going to happen next. So in effect, all of us are intentionally vulnerable. that's how life is, isn't it? So what's to stop you trying something new? What's the worst that could happen? Sometimes it's better to leap than to look. Sometimes, depending on what it is. Yeah. But sometimes the fun happens in the stuff when it's really out of your comfort zone. A lot of the time, you do a lot of learning in that point. And I would say also, I've learned to listen to other people, but ultimately make your own decisions, because they are not you. Yeah. And so they're only thinking it through from their viewpoint and their values, and from their upbringings and whatever the scenarios might be, but they're not you. So you have to make your own decisions and be kind to people.
Be kind to people. Yeah, no, I like that. That's good. And, you know, a couple of other things that really spoke to me about our discussion there was just, you know, that feeling of, you know, trying to bring some justice sometimes. If you can say something and speak up to something, then do so.
Yeah, definitely. It's not easy to do. It's not much fun. But when people are being hurt, you know, you've got to stand up to people sometimes. So,
Definitely. Cool.
Be kind, but stand up for yourself as well.
Be kind, but stand up for yourself as well. No, I like
that takes courage.
I like that. Yeah. All right. Well, you're going to write a play, or you're in the process of. So
we'll give it a go anyway. We'll see.
You've done some stand up.
Yep.
You've done some rally racing. You've done some karting.
Yeah.
Cycling race. What do you call it?
Road racing.
Road racing. So lots of new things there. Started a new business as well.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff took an element of bravery and courage to go for it. And I think what I'm getting as well is like, you just can't be driven by what other people think. You've got to just go for it.
No. What do you want to do in life? Try it.
Try it. Love it. The courage to try new things.
Yeah, exactly. I think courage to try new things is a good way of putting it. I think it's essential.
Cool, Stuart. It's been so good to have you. If people are listening or watching online, is there somewhere, and they had a question or something like that, is there somewhere they could get in touch with you? Or
probably the easiest way is to go through the business website. So that's the smithycreative.co.uk. So
Excellent.
Head there and there's a contact form on there. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. We've got some plans for other things in the future. I'd love to have you back if you're interested in
always.
Some of that stuff. We're going to be looking at relationships in 25 years.
Oh, I don't do that. No,
you don't do it? But 25 years of marriage, that's an incredible thing. So I'm sure you could teach us a few things there. So maybe I'll give you a call and you'll come back in the future.
Yeah, go for it.
That'd be really good.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Thanks. It's been brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And whatever you're doing, wherever you're listening from or watching online, keep moving forward, try new things, and go in courage. Hey, if you enjoyed that video today, why don't you click that like button down below? It really helps out the channel. Why not stay up to date by clicking on the subscribe button as well, where you'll get notified about future podcasts and all things Go in Courage.